What's good, everybody? Back once again, and I seen this sort of topic come up, and I seen I want to give a shout out to Steven Larson. I was like, they was the ones that I was like, I seen this come up at, and I was like, I didn't know how much of it was of a thing, but basically it was talking about the women's division, and it was like AEW versus like WWE, and I guess also just in whole or whatever. I was like, I haven't watched AEW in quite some time, since pretty much Tony Storm and Ruby and Saraya like made a little click and they were going to get Britt Baker and Hater and them. So I was like, I haven't really seen it since then, so I missed quite a few times. So I won't even talk about this in this amount of time, even though I could reference some stuff from like before when I was watching it quite a bit, with like Britt and Rosa and Cargill and Athena coming through, but the whole thing with WWE and their women versus AEW, I don't really even think it's really that much of a competition, just from the fact of the time when I was watching both of them. I still thought WWE was better than AEW on the women's, especially because I was like, I thought AEW should have had actually the better chance than WWE, mainly because even though like the WWE has like higher profile women, I was like the top of the people, like Becky, Charlotte, Bianca, Asuka, Rhea, even like they have like such a good handful of people, that but the rest of them aren't there at all. I even still think it's like that with the women's division in WWE, which I think sometimes contributes to some of this. But what the difference is to me, like AEW is like there's top people, like there's like Britt and there's you have Rose at the top at a time, but I thought that even though that if they they all weren't at the top end, that they had like such a good amount of people, and plus it was still sort of new. Like some people coming in from different companies, so they gotta like reestablish a character. Some of the people built up, that you should be able to have multitude of matches compared to because I'm like, nobody watching Dana Brooke versus like Natalia. If you put that on, nobody's watching that. But I'll watch over here if you put Athena versus Mercedes. I watch that. Or I was like, I would watch. I was like, yeah. Granted, I was like, I knew a lot of these people from WWE, and so, but also creates the intrigue of being like, oh, what they're gonna do now? How are they gonna? And I'm like, so you could have had like multitude of matches, and you got two women's titles. That's also the other thing I don't understand is that I was like, you have two titles that is like a hierarchy that's different in WWE, where like WWE they trying to balance them out of like, so like they're on even playing field, whereas like they make it really clear that it's like, even though like Jay was holding this title for a long time, that it was still secondary to the women's championship. So you should still have a lot of, and I was like, I know they were doing the Cargill and her like being like undefeated and stuff like that. So I understand that in that aspect, but I was like, they wasn't doing. I felt like the matches weren't really compelling, and I was like, with Cargill, you knew that a lot. I was like, there was a lot of times I felt like I wanted her. I was like, I didn't want her to lose, but I felt like she should have lost. Like when she had her matchup against Athena, I was like, Athena coming in, she's hot, get her going. No, I was thinking, they eventually, Rosa got hurt, so they had to take the title off her, and then after that, it's like, eh. And with it, I was like, well, I don't know. But now, now I was like, speaking of more present, there's a lot. I was like, it's still top heavy in WWE, but there's multiple women's matches, way more than it like used to be in like the last like few years. Most time you get like both women champions, and you may get a minor feud, sort of, maybe. I was like, and that depends if it's tag team championships or not. Which, to be honest, I really think the tag team championships, one, I feel like that should sort of have been a mid card title, but also I think it's also sort of holding the women's division back on the lower end. One, because you're making tag teams out of nothing, and so therefore it's like, well, you got a tag team over here, you can't really have them focus over here also to do main matches, because you don't have that. You have a lot of women, but you don't have solid depth like the men's side, you know. But now I'm like, you have like the triple threat at like SummerSlam. Uh, I was like, and I feel like with like Io winning the championship, you could do. I was like, I said it before that I was like, I feel like you could do Io and Asuka, and you could have Bianca and Charlotte have their own feud by itself of like, we're going to get, kind of like they've been sort of having stuff since NXT, so you got something there. Like you also have something with like Asuka and Charlotte because they've had their little thing as well. But you can have that, but that's like but have the Bianca, Charlotte, and you can have like Asuka, Io. I was like, you doing Becky and you doing Trish with Zoe in there, and I was like, that's sort of developing Zoe as also as like a star as well. So you got like this here. Rhea just sort of just running through people at this moment, and which is also fine, kind of like it's just showing like her dominance or whatever. But what I will say, I was like, I think is that I was like, I don't understand why they're not on the pay-per-views. That like, to be honest, I'm like, when is Ripley had her title on the line at a pay-per-view? I'm like, I was like thinking about this other day. I was like, that's SummerSlam. I'm like, I don't think it's at the last one either. Yeah, I was like, so I'm like, she hasn't had a pay-per-view match, and I was like, since like what, Backlash, which I'm like, that's crazy. I feel like if you got a title, and I was like, I mean, granted, Austin Theory had been on nothing forever, and he just lost his title, but if you have a title, you should be on a pay-per-view card, especially when there's only like 2 for women. So I was like, you should be on there. But I'm like we got that Shayna and we got Ronda, which I think could have been good if it didn't do that stupid MMA stuff. That was garbage, but that could have been a solid match by itself. But like somebody, but I was like, but I also understand putting her on the card because I was like, no matter how much you dislike Ronda, she is a draw. She is something that I'm like guess what? The WWE fans, you're already going to be there. But Ronda, just like how Logan Paul is there, is going to get in people that wouldn't normally watch. So I get why she's there. But the thing is, on the flip side, a lot of people know Becky. I like a little bit outside of WWE now. So I'm like, and Trish Stratus also like one of those like nostalgia people too. That I'm like, guess what? Now somebody that might have been like, oh snap, I'm gonna go tune in for Trish. I ain't seen Trish. I ain't know she still wrestled or whatever like that. Or it's like, because I still do. I used to do this back in the day when I wasn't watching wrestling. I'll be like, oh snap, The Rock showed up, Jeff Hardy showed up. I was like, oh, they're doing like Legends Day or whatever. And I was like, I get to a when you're watching wrestling constantly, that could be annoying, but it gets into a lot of people that don't. But you could have had 4. I was like, I mean, it was a long pay-per-view already as is. But the thing that like for instance, like the Battle Royal. No, honestly, you could have taken that out. I get why they had to do it, but you could have taken that out. That was like, that was it. I was like, or I don't know. I was like, remember how they used to do like the pre-game like matches? I was like, do that on a pre-game match, something like that. Get everybody warmed up or whatever. I don't know. I was like, but you didn't need that. So I was like, that's where I was like, and that's where I could understand the gripe of the women and the fact that it's like you have some garbage matches on the WWE card, or or like you could slide around ones where it's like, like Drew and Gunther, you could have had that on a regular day. Cause I'm like, you're gonna have Rhea defend her title on a regular day. You could have moved that one on a regular day. Like, yes, the 2 main men titles, I get like those matches, yes. I was like, Logan Paul or Ricochet, you sort of have to, because you're not going to have Logan Paul for nothing but a pay-per-view. So I understand that one. Like I said, the Ronda versus Shayna, if you just take the MMA thing off, it might have been pretty good. Like maybe if they would have did a submissions match, like tell me, like, and I was like, and some of this things also too is also like, cause like I said a submission match, and in my head I'm like, would people actually watch that though? Cause I would, because I was like, you got 2 submission people. But I'm like, can you get that with the WWE crowd? And I think that's sort of also a litmus test of like women matches and stuff and things like that. Just because like 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 Ricochet could do a lot of amazing stuff, but we also aren't out here being like Ricochet is a heavyweight champion type of person. We could see him as like the United States champion. I mean, you know, I was like, I believe he held it, but we could see him like that. But I was like, you know, like how I said, like, would we watch, like, kind of like, would we watch the submission match with Shayna and Ronda when they're both submission people? But you know, that sort of made me think of like with the women's side of like, man, they're like they're so top, especially on SmackDown. But on like on Raw, for instance, I'm like, I like Rhea should get her championship on the card. But I also don't know if there's anybody there that you would feel good about other than Becky or Shayna or Ronda. And I was like, they're trying to build a Raquel right now, and I feel like she got a good amount going. Liv, I was like, but see, I was like, other than like, you know, I was like, Shane, like, except for Becky and Raquel, because I was like, Raquel got the stature. All we sort of know how they're gonna go. So I'm like, and that's sort of also the point in this too, that it's like, while they do need the matches on the card that you can swap out and you can place them on, and it's like they got other good programs in place, is that you also don't have enough, I feel like, enough women credible enough in a way that, because I'm like, you know, I'm like somebody like Chad Gable. I was like, you know, I was like, he can suplex Braun Strowman. That's something crazy, you know. But it's like somebody like Candice Ray gonna really be able to really do that in her own right, you know. And I'm like, is there enough women that got something also to give in the way that like some of these dudes got, that we might not see them as anything really, but it's like, but we're gonna get like a crazy match out of it, or we're gonna get something spectacular that they do, even though like I'm like Otis, he's not gonna have a championship around his waist, but we're still out here excited to see Otis, you know. I was like, speaking of which, I haven't seen Piper in forever, I guess that's what I'm getting at too. That I'm like, is that sort of another problem in as well of, I like, but to me, I'm stammering. You got to give the women a chance to succeed or fail. Like, if you give them the shot, all you could do is give them the shot and see how that goes. And you can play with the results and you can see how it is. And you just got to see what works and what doesn't. But if they're not getting the shot, then of course it's going to be a problem. Of course it's going to still be an issue for them to gripe about. I was like, they're not even getting the chance to do anything, show, set up anything, maybe see what goes. And kind of like, it's not just always, you know, it's not always just us as like the fans or whatever like that. I mean, like, you got to give us some people, like, you know, like Damage Control ain't won in forever. Everybody still like Damage Control with Io and Bayley and Coda. I was like, yeah, messed up her name because I was like, that's her own name. But I was like, but that's why I said SmackDown got it right. Raw, they got a couple new people, so therefore they got to do a little bit more build up. But I was like, but what you should do is just have Rhea be so dominant, have one of them be like the little like, gosh, I'm trying to get this, you know, kind of like, that's what you got to do. You got LeRae, you got Indy. I was like, and with Indy try to beat Rhea, and she didn't, but I'm like, you got like just get her butt beat the whole time and make her sympathetic in a certain way. Make, you know, I was like, that's what you're gonna have to do other than Raquel and Becky. Those are the only two that you actually feel could beat Rhea. I was like, and even not Raquel, but you can feel like it's going to be a rough 'em up match kind of thing. But no, I get where they're coming from. I was like, I don't think it's just as easy or whatever, that it's like hating or disliking necessarily like women, but I also think that it's a little bit of like, you got to give them a chance to see. I mean, a chance to see what happens before we can actually say anything. But also, as a crowd of people, we also use the women matches to sort of be like, and is that on us? Is that on the way they booked it? Or, cause I'm like, we get up for some of the men matches that also aren't, that are like meh, but the characters and stuff like that too. So it's sort of a collaborative effort of failing in a sense, but I was like, but I was like, I'm gonna put it more on WWE, not giving them the part to try to shine at least. But anyway, you disagree, got your own views, or got something to say, let me know. If you liked anything I say, I was like, do that as well. I was like, I appreciate it for you watching this video. But other than that, peace. I'm out.